Hello, everybody. I'm Psychic Medium Chris George, and I'm joined by my co-host Victor the Voice Furman, who's on his cell phone in his car, and Jeremy Moonshine Adams. Welcome to our show, Vision Quest, where we will try and unleash the power of your mind. It is August 1st, and we are airing live on DTMWickedRadio.com, and we want to thank everyone for being here tonight. Listen, if you got a pen and paper, write down this phone number. It's our call-in number. If you want to talk to us or our guests, it's 818-431-8214. That's 818-431-8214. And we love our callers. So, last week, I guess you guys were chicken to call in. Don't be chicken this week. Call in, people. This is going to be an interactive show tonight, so sit back, relax, and let's cross the threshold of reality together. I want to mention a couple fan pages. I have my fan page, which is Psychic Medium Chris George. If you like it, you have a chance of getting a free reading from me. We have Victor the Voice Furman fan page, and we have Jeremy Moonshine Adams fan page. But the most important page that you guys should get on is the Vision Quest page on Facebook. We post a lot of really good things on there. I interact with a lot of the listeners and whatnot. So get in that group, people. It's a fun group. And if you like this show, you'll like you'll definitely like the page. Denny, I don't know if you called Victor. Victor, are you with us?
Not here yet, Chris. I'm trying.
Okay. Well, Victor will be with us in a few moments, and I know Jeremy is just rebooting his computer, so he'll be with us momentarily as well.
Here. I'm still on the phone, so.
Oh, okay. So you're good to go.
I still can't get into Skype, man. This is
all right. Well, don't worry about Skype. As long as you're on the phone, you're good enough. If you got questions, we're good to go. But Jeremy, I want to go over last week's show a little bit. Last week we had Dawn Hayden, the paranormal siren Sasha Kleinot, and Alexandra from the Psychic Eye. What did you think about last week's show, Jeremy?
Do I have to be honest? I thought it was very good, man. I think everybody did an all right job. It was hit and miss, but it was also shot in the dark too. So. Okay,
well, if I'm being honest, and I always am, I didn't think the show was that great. I thought the psychics were a bit off, and I think it was due to nerves or whatever, and I think one psychic was absolutely horrible. That would be Alexandra. I thought that the things she was saying was absolutely ridiculous. She said some things that a psychic shouldn't say to people as far as I'm concerned. So I will go out on a limb and say the show sucked last week. And it kind of pisses me off because we had like 39,000 listeners, which was, a big night for us. I think our best night to date. And we had so many listeners, and they had to listen to that crap last week, and I apologize to our listeners. And what you guys need to know about Vision Quest and Psychic Medium Chris George and Jeremy Moonshine Adams and Victor the Voice Furman is we don't pull any punches. If it's good, it's good. If it sucks, it sucks. Last week sucked, and I apologize for that show that we put out there last week. I can assure you it will never, ever happen again. If I got to do the damn readings myself, I will. And that's just the way it's going to be. So that's my thoughts on the show last week. Now, I know, listen, we actually added a new segment to the show. And it's going to be good news, things that are good. Because, I watch the news every friggin' day, and it's miserable. It's, Ebola. It's Obama screwing something up. It's terrorists. It's, people, cops killing people. It's just ridiculous. The crap that's on the news, and it's all, depressing and horrible and mean, and, it leaves you, it makes you sad and depressed and whatever. So I decided that I want to do a segment on the show every week where we talk about something good in the news. I know it's going to be hard for Jeremy to find every week, but we're going to be doing that. So I know Jeremy has something tonight. Right, Jeremy?
Man, I got good news every day. I got good news every day.
Well, that's what I want to hear. I want to put something good out there on Vision Quest. You know what I mean?
Well, the good thing I learned today is when I went into the bathroom and I looked into the mirror, I realized how handsome I really am. That's good news, man. You know.
That's good news. That's good news. I look in the mirror and I say, Jesus Christ! Oh my
I know,
God.
especially with that fucking haircut you get now, man. Holy cow!
Yeah, well, that was that Russian guy. Watch him out, first of all. Second of all, that was that Russian guy who told me I had a nice head, but that's a whole other story. I just want to put a shout out to the lead-in show to Vision Quest, which is Alpha Star Radio with Linda Marie Johnson. She's doing a wonderful job, and for those of you who are listeners to Vision Quest, right before Vision Quest, Alpha Star Radio is on, and the woman is doing a fantastic job, and you should give her a listen. I think you're going to like her. I like her, and if I like her, most times than not, our listeners will like her as well. So she does a really great job. Give her a chance. What do we got here? Well, our guest tonight is Val Logan, and we're going to be talking about the secret of creating good luck in any situation. So I got a little write-up here for Val I'm going to read, which is usually what Victor does because he's much better at reading things out loud than I am. So people, bear with me. If I suck, you could send me an email and tell me, you know what, Chris, don't read it anymore. And guess what? I won't. Anyway, holding us back is almost always the self-critical ogre lurking in the background of our minds. Join us and learn the concealed words which will transform your bone-crushing inner critic into an admirable ally, allowing you to evoke your own joyful creativity. Val will share some of his little-known secrets in manifesting and materializing your impossible dreams. Val Logan, a unique, clairaudient keeper of the 10 secrets with over 35 years of experience, will see deep into your heart and your soul, hear your hidden words behind your words, and guide you. This is a rare opportunity, people. Don't let it pass you by. Should I go on? Yeah, I'll go on. Val Logan is an ordained minister, a certified hypnotherapist, spiritual counselor, and relationship coach. He is a master of seeing, hearing, and feeling, but most people do not. This sets him apart as a unique guide into the uncharted territory of conscious awareness. With your willingness, he will take you where most people have never gone before and help you to more easily remember who you really are. Jesus Christ, I don't even know if I want to know who I am. But anyway, he has the ability to see deep into your heart and soul, hear the hidden feelings behind your words, and guide you. He is a truth seeker extraordinaire. Deep inside, you have always known the truth. Now you can own it and live by it. It is now even more timely for that revelation. Val, welcome to our show.
Thank you very much for reading the intro and inviting me to be here, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm definitely a truth seeker, and some people even say I have a built-in lie detector, so it's all good.
Well, that's good. And I know you sent us something saying that you would take a few callers. Is that okay?
Absolutely. First, we need to give a little background, but yes, I'll take callers so that we can give a sample of what I can actually do with people, with their cooperation, and they need to have a problem that they want a solution for, or if they're aware of the internal critical ogre, the critic inside that sabotages them, and they want to change that. And I can give a sample or two so that people have a heartfelt sense of what's possible when they work with me.
Okay, sounds good. Well, Jeremy, I'm going to start this off if you don't mind. And the first thing I want to ask is the King of Hearts and the Keeper of the Secrets. What does that mean?
Well, basically, when I hear inside a person's words what they would really want to say but don't know how to say, that's basically the keeper of the secret, because I can hear in their voice where the energy is blocked. And when they recognize that they're stuck or they want some help, then we start right there, and I can hear where it is in their voice, clairaudiently. And so since that is a secret until being revealed, it can be very life-changing and very helpful. And it doesn't always accomplish miraculous results the first time. But what it does do is give people an indication of what's possible and what direction to take, and then we can even go deeper than the first time.
Well,
and King of Hearts means that I have a loving connection with myself and with other people in a truthful way. And like you were saying, you want the truth and not the BS. Well, I sort out the BS and get to the truth, and that really frees all of us, including me, because each time it happens, it's really a great, good feeling to be of service in this way.
Well, I have a follow-up question to that. You know, I think so many, you know, you say you weed through the BS. Now, you know, I'm a psychic medium, and I deal with a lot of people, and I deal with a lot of BS. Now, how do you weed through when the person actually believes their bullshit? I mean, how do you determine, you know, how do you go about that?
That's a good question, because I've done it so many times. I can hear what a person's actually saying and then guide them into what they really want to be saying and pay attention to how they're feeling in the moment. And then they pay attention as well, and then we can guide the person through the BS, through the drama, into the truth of what they really want to say and how they really want to feel. Because basically, you'll probably recognize this in your readings with people, is that in our society, most of the time we're not taught how to be honest and truthful in a genuine and respectful way. We're not taught that.
Well, I mean, I don't know if I completely agree with that. I mean, I think, you know, it depends on your upbringing and your family. You know, I think I was brought up pretty well, and I think I was given, you know, the tools to make good decisions and stuff like that. But yeah, I think for the most part, I think you're probably right. I think a lot of people don't really maybe they haven't been brought up right. I don't know what it is, but a lot of
I think you're on the right track, because look at all the divorces. Because people haven't been brought up that way. They haven't experienced their parents or with them or with each other finding a way to problem solve together so they're on the same team. They're usually in conflict, trying to make themselves look right, make the other person look wrong.
Right.
And I can wade through all that and see what the truth really is.
Okay. Jeremy, you got a question there?
Chris, I'm having some problems. I'm going to have to call right back.
Okay, not a problem. I'll keep going then. Val, my next question is, you know, what got you started on this path of self-discovery?
Well, I was basically a kind of a sensitive kid, and all kids are in some form or another. But one time, I'd gotten out of the Army, and I went to visit an uncle of mine who was attending some sort of a group therapy, and I was young and didn't know anything. So I sat down and I listened. And when I listened, I found people talking about their feelings. And I'd never, ever experienced that or seen it done before. And it was eye-opening for me. I said, this is amazing stuff. And it wasn't just drama. It wasn't just people being in pain, but actually being guided to feel better. And I thought that was excellent. And so I kind of kept that in my mind, and then I was going to school, and one of the classes that I signed up to take to get my undergraduate degree was called Group Dynamics. And in that class, it was really amazing. The teacher sat us down and had us divide into small groups, and guess what we did? We shared our feelings with each other. And I thought that was way cool. That was a language that I understood. And almost right away within a few sessions, I became a leader of the group because I knew exactly where to go and how to go there. It just was a part of me. So I had been a fish out of water, and I said, this is what I do well. And so I just kept on practicing it and working with it and became even better at it. And the teacher had been leading some groups, and he was invited to go to a Napa State Hospital over here in Northern California. And he asked me to go instead in his place because he knew I had some skill. So I was a happy camper going to work with some people in residence there to become psychiatrists. And I took them through some exercises, and they were well impressed, and I was feeling good because I was given the validation that that I deserved because I was really good at that. Man, I got even better. So that's kind of how I got started.
Oh, well, I have a follow-up to that. You know, I'm a big believer in mentors. I've had my mentors, and I mentor quite a few people. You know, was there somebody in particular that really set you down and said, listen, Val, this is how you do things. This is the proper way to do things. Here's certain things that you should never do or never say. Did you have somebody who really, took you under their wing and showed you the proper way to do things?
Yes and no. One of the first mentors I had was in that same group dynamics class. He just encouraged me and given me a little guidance here and there, and I went to some of his groups. And I also got some good experience with Fritz Perls, a Gestalt therapist back in the 60s. You may have heard of him. But he was excellent in a lot of the work he did, and I experienced some good results. And so I did have some mentors here and there along the way. I think the best mentor has been me, but that's something that I've been polishing and developing. I was in this group called Sage Seminars, and we did group work, and it was a personal growth and development company. And they found out what I could do, and they would fly me to different parts of the country to do a lot of their seminars. And of course, they had other people doing it too. But one of the great experiences that I had with Sage was that I was able to work with some people in the group setting individually and keep working with them and help them kind of get deeper into their own areas and release some really stuck blocks. And one of the guys came up to me afterwards and said, I've been watching some of Fritz Perls' work. He was really good. I said, yeah, wasn't he? It was really great. And he looked me square in the eye. He says, Fritz Perls is really good, and a lot of the other people I've known have been pretty good too. He said, but I've never seen anyone do what you do with people in this group setting like that. And that was such a good compliment. I mean, that's a wonderful compliment. I was humbled by that because, it's not always that you get that kind of feedback from people, and that was very much appreciated. Right, that's fantastic. And that kept me going. We have a couple questions from Twitter, actually, they're sending in to our station manager. And somebody wants to know, I don't have a name here, but can you sense when someone's lying in their voice? And they want to know, is it because you're a psychic, or you're just good at reading a person's tone when they become nervous? Well, I'm all of that together. I'm clairaudient, clairsentient, and clairvoyant. Okay, that's beautiful. All right. And what else? Well, that's it for that question. I think we have Jeremy Adams with us. Jeremy, you with us, buddy?
I'm back, man. Skype threw an update on me, and
I know. I went through it yesterday. I know, and I think Victor's ready to come on also, Denny. If you could bring Victor on, I see he's in the chat room. And there he is. Well, Jeremy, why don't you start? We're up to question 2 that we have for our guest. Why don't you go with 2?
Okay. Tell us about Zen meditation and your dream.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Well, I was doing a lot of Zen meditation when I was undergraduate, and I'd started around in 65, 66. Get up early in the morning and go do some Zen meditation with a teacher there and at the school where I was going. And we go to Los Altos in California, and this lady had Marion Derby had what's called a meditation center in her garage. And the first time I did that, it was kind of interesting because I'd never done that before either. We had cushions, and we'd sit on a cushion, zabuton they call them, sit on a cushion and face the wall and just follow your breathing. And basically that's what I did, and I felt like I was coming back home to myself. It was just really amazing. And as I began to do that, and got in touch with it, I was reading anything and everything I could about the experiences people were having. They call it Satori or enlightenment experiences, and other people have different names for it. But basically it was, I had this dream. And in this dream, the whole idea back in the 60s was authority figures and rebellion towards authority and that kind of thing. And so in this dream I was carrying the teacher. His name was Suzuki Roshi. He wrote a book, or they wrote a book for him called Beginner's Mind. And he was sitting up in a coffin, and we were carrying him in a coffin, and he was saying, well, I'm not dying, I'll never die. I'm not dying, I'll never die. And so we put him down, and he was still sitting up there, and then somebody threw this stick into his coffin, and he died. This is all in the dream, right? This is in the dream. And so then I said, what? What's going on here? And it was just really a turnaround. And I remember seeing my grandmother bowing out of fear. That was a big deal, to bow out of fear back then. You were bowing to a person's Buddha nature or their Christ consciousness, and that's a tone of respect, but not submission. And so there was a qualitative difference. And I saw this image of her being afraid and bowing out of fear. I stood up in the dream, and I said, God, do your best. Take your best shot. I'm not bowing to anybody, including you, ever again. Mr. Defiant myself, right?
Well,
I expected lightning to strike me or something. I didn't care. I was not going to bow.
Well, Val, that takes a lot of balls to talk to God like that.
Yeah, at the time I was a feisty kind of character. I still am, but anyway. So basically, I felt something coming towards me after I made that statement, and I stood by it. And then I felt something, and I said, well, what is it? And I heard in the dream, I'll never forget it, you know what it is. And I was puzzled. I said, well, wait a minute. If I knew what it was, I wouldn't be asking in the dream what it was. And so I turned to the right, and I saw this white pulsating light. It engulfed me and pulsated through my whole body, and I was just like, whoa, what is this? And so then I saw an image of a UFO and just all kinds of stuff going on, and I was just like, whoa. I woke up. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I said, if meditation is going to get me here, this is not without any drugs at all. I'm going for it. So I got back in my little 37 horsepower VW Bug, orange VW Bug, and started driving back to Los Altos. And I saw, alongside the road, there was a highway patrolman talking to a person, and I almost pulled the car over and jumped out and said, hey, there's nothing to be afraid of. You don't have to be afraid of anything. There's nothing to be afraid of. And so I drove on. I didn't do that because I felt they might come at me with the nets and put me in a hospital or something. I thought they would think I was crazy. So I didn't do that. So I went back to the meditation center and kept on meditating. And I said, this is where I want to go. And I believe this is what they were talking about, a glimpse of this seeing the highest level of dimensional experience, or one of them anyway. And that had a profound effect on me. So anything else that I did was helping me shift my consciousness, help other people shift their consciousnesses. And so that had a profound effect.
Excuse me, Mr. Logan. How old were you when this happened?
I was in my 20s. I'd gotten out of the military. I was over in Germany in the military and came back. I had successfully avoided the Vietnam War. But I came back and I was doing meditation. I had gotten into school and I was doing meditation. I was a student, so I was in my 20s.
I asked because when I was 12 years old, and this is kind of how me and Chris got to talking. When I was 12, I woke up to a homeless man at the end of my bed holding a hatchet.
Whoa.
And I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. And finally, I got a whisper out. And then, finally I got a yell. I was yelling for my mom when my stepdad come. He had to pick me up and carry me through the house, and he laid me down at the foot of the bed. I was so scared I still wasn't talking. And
right.
I finally went to sleep, and then I was woken up by this the brightest light that I have ever seen in the corner of the room where there was no lamp at all, no window, nothing. It was really crazy, but after I seen that light, everything was okay, and I went right back to sleep. But I asked my my mother and my stepdad the next morning if they seen it, and they said yes. And my stepdad still remembers it, but we can't explain anything that happened that night.
Oh, yeah, I know. I understand all that. Pretty much. The thing that I left out of this dream that I was talking about, thank you for sharing that, by the way. It sounds like a similar level of energy, is that when I was doing the Zen meditation in this lady's little meditation hall there, I was sharing with her different things I was reading, and she told me a story about this woman who had gone to a retreat and doing the Zen meditation thing, and she was meditating, and she was being bothered. She goes to the meditation teacher and says, this is disturbing. He said, well, what's bothering you? I keep getting a vision of Jesus coming into my meditation. And the guy there said, well, that's fine. Go ahead and back and meditate on it, right? And so she did. And the second time she came back, he's still bothering me. This is for Buddhists, Zen Buddhist meditation. What is Jesus doing here, right? And so he said, well, go back and meditate it some more. And so she did. And finally, the third time she came back, he's still bothering me. He said, well, why don't you let him in? He can meditate with us, no problem. So she goes back and she meditates and she lets him in, and she has this similar experience to what you and I are talking about, an enlightenment experience. And then I realized that this level of energy and experience it's non-denominational, it's all denominational, it's interfaith, it's interreligion, it's interconsciousness, it's for all of us. So it doesn't select any group of people out. This is all for everybody, right?
So
it was just so cool. And that sparked me into that dream, because that was just something amazing that I'd never heard before, and I liked it a lot. It was cool.
What are your views on religion and God?
Well, religion is an organized group of people that have similar ways to approach the divine. It's just an organized group of people. And the divine, or whatever you want to call it, the universe, God, it's everything and everyone. There is no limitation about anything.
Well, I believe we had a man on here, or maybe it was Second Sight, that said that, no, it was Vision Quest, that said God was a woman and that he had met her personally.
Right.
And he was full of shit back then.
We're all different forms of different things at different times, so to him, maybe that was important to be experienced the feminine. And the truth is, God is everything.
Well, listen, I just want to make a quick announcement. Our other co-host, Victor the Voice Furman, has finally made it to the show. And Victor, welcome. Say hello to our guest, Val.
Hello, Val. Good evening. Welcome, everybody.
Hi, Victor. How you doing?
Wonderful, thank you. I just made it back from the east side of Manhattan to my home here in Queens in 22 minutes, a record time.
Fantastic. Good to
Nice.
hear from you.
Very good, very good. Vic, why don't you start with number 3?
Okay. Tell us about your experience, please, with the group dynamics class.
Yeah, that's kind of what I covered earlier, but let me, in brief, the experience was I had stumbled into this class. It wasn't even a requirement. It was just something I thought would be good for me to have, and undergraduate work, and I got into the class, and we split up into groups. And in the groups, we were told, talk about your feelings. And I said, what? I said, okay. So I started doing it and coaching other people in doing it. I became the leader of the group that I was in, naturally, because it was my language. I understood the language. I understand the language of feeling. So when someone is feeling something, I can help them get to the cause, and I can hear it in their voice. And when I was doing that, and still doing it, it still fascinates me. It's like some people call that in the therapy world is hearing with the third ear. I call it clairaudience.
Clairaudience.
So I'm clairaudient, clairsentient, and clairvoyant. So I can use all those abilities simultaneously. But oftentimes I select the voice because then people can be a part of it rather than me just giving them a reading.
I refer to that as being an éclair, by the way.
Okay.
Now,
good.
You said that you get together and you were sharing your feelings. Now, I know that I would have a hard time doing that. Okay, getting up in front of people and just sharing my feelings. And
most
I know
people
a lot
do.
of guys. Well, it's a hard thing. I want to know, what did you do to make people comfortable enough to actually share their feelings? Because that's not an easy thing to do.
Oh, there you go. Very good question. Thank you for asking. I appreciate that.
You're very welcome.
What I do is create a safe place for everyone to share their feelings. That's one of the things I learned in SAGE, which was a personal growth seminar company, is that once the people, the founders of it, realized what I was capable of, they had me leading the sharing. So would take them through different exercises, and they would get them in touch with their feelings, men and women, and children oftentimes too, teens anyway, teenagers, and they would experience feelings that were buried that they didn't know they had. In fact, there were a couple of teenagers one time that would, I'd say, you're going to get in touch with some good feelings and maybe some tears, and they said, oh yeah, they were joking. They said, no way, no how, this is all bogus, right? I said, okay, see what you experience. So they went through it, and they were at some point crying joyfully and tearfully and sadly, and they really experienced something different, and it helped them.
Chris, it's very similar to what you and I do, and when we have our classes, when we hold groups together, and that's what we do, is create sacred space. We create a place in which people are safe and feel safe, and they're not going to be judged, and they're not going to be criticized for expressing their true feelings and what they're experiencing in life. And it comes from the compassion in each of our hearts, and I'm sure Val does it the same way.
And you know what? That's exactly what Go ahead.
Go ahead. What are you going to say?
That's exactly what we've created on Google Plus in the Vision Quest community. Is we have like 230 members now, and I mean, there's stories on there. There's one guy that writes a new story every day and posts in there. We've got a lot of people, a lot of support. So I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And when you give somebody a format or a platform to put stuff out there, like we do with our Vision Quest page on Google Plus and Facebook, it helps people to open up. And Victor, like you were saying, what we do when we do hold our classes, one thing I love most about when I do a healing circle is you get people, anywhere from 10 to, I've done a healing circle as big as almost 80 people. You get people that come there, they don't know what to expect, but they know that they want to experience something, and they're open-minded, open heart also, and they receive something not just from what I'm doing as a healing circle, but from like everything that's happening with the people around us. Everybody's experiencing something, and everyone is absorbing from different people, and it makes them open up, and it makes them comfortable and feel at ease and able to actually talk, and it's a beautiful thing. It really is.
And the funny thing is, he was actually very uncomfortable while he was saying all that.
Jeremy, why don't you take
well,
the
that's
next
what I
question?
basically help people do is feel more comfortable with the uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
And that takes courage and awareness. So as people feel uncomfortable with their feelings, that's the way where they need to be, so they will get used to letting them flow in a truthful and honest way.
You know what, Mr.
And
Logan,
that's what I set up. Yeah.
I don't have very many friends, as Chris pointed out to me the other day. But the friends that I do have are high quality. Victor, Chris, Tom, every single one of my friends that I do have, I cherish them because it's 100% honesty. It doesn't matter, what you say or what you do, as long as you're honest about it. They'll work through it. and
that's
you
the
know,
idea.
we turn to, Chris, Tom, and I. We have Voxer, and you know, we share our daily feelings. You know, if we're having a bad day, hey, if we're having a good day, we share it, and it's all great. And I think it helps all three of us to get through our day. Even just to vent to another person. You know, I hate to use people as a vent, but sometimes you have to.
Sometimes that's a start. When I was working with the SAGE seminars, a couple of different stories, but one of them was the reason they had me guide and lead the sharing, and they told me, says, well, whatever you do when you're doing the sharing, don't interrupt anybody, right? Because that'll help them continue with the flow. And then after a while, I realized, no, that's not going to work, because people get on a tangent and they get off the point. And so I bring them back to the essence of what they really need and want to say, and everything works smoothly. That's why they had me doing it. So their instructions were not really accurate in terms of what I could do. Maybe with other people that would work for them, but it didn't really help the whole situation. I had one lady, we were in the company, she was getting in touch with her feelings, and she was rolling around on the floor. And I said, okay, let me take a look at this. I says, how are you feeling when you do this? Not good. I said, well, don't do it. Get up and talk about how you're feeling. And then I could guide her that way, and it turned out to be much better for her, because that's what she really wanted, but she didn't know where to take her feelings, so she needed to be guided, and she appreciated it, and that's what I do.
Well,
so I appreciate all of you understand my language here. This is great. Thank you for being here. I appreciate that.
I have a quick question. Do you hear anything in our voices?
Oh yeah. Let's see here. I don't go reading people's voices that particular way. Yeah, it's a good question. I do, and the way I do it is, again, if someone has something that they want to work on, then I let them volunteer what they're aware of about it, because it's too much like interfering if I say, here's what I'm hearing in your voice.
Well, I'll tell you what.
So when
Chris,
someone
I'm
says,
sorry,
well, I have a problem I'd like some support with, then I will listen, and that person gives me permission.
Let's
and then I guide
space
them, and then I listen to see if it's going in a good direction. And because sometimes it is, I don't have to say much. Well, and then if it's not, I help guide it back. And if I'm right, it's helpful. If I'm not, then it gets stuck, and we work it out, and we find a way. But usually, 99%, I'm usually pretty close to being on track. That's a truthful way of being. But I'm always hearing different things in people's voices, but I never say anything about it because it's not my business, unless they want it to be.
Chris, if you don't mind, I'd like to take over the show for a second, because I'm going to put some of my past out there just so we can see what this man is made of.
Okay. Jeremy, we're going to hold sacred space. We're going to hold sacred space for you right now, Jeremy.
All right.
Yeah,
well,
absolutely.
The whole world, here you go. I have a problem with anger. My entire family accused me of murder and kidnapping, accused me of murdering my grandparents and kidnapping my two little cousins. And that was in Tennessee, and I was in Las Vegas on my way to L.A. when it happened. And the entire family accused me of that, and I wrote every one of them off. I haven't talked to any of them in a year and a half. So, the only people that I talk to are my kids. So how can you help me deal with this problem? How can I release this anger that I hold towards the people that I loved my entire life, just to have them turn around and stab me in the back and leave me?
I got you. I hear you. We can do something right here.
Let's do it.
First of all, I might create the space, is that in a lot of ways, your family loved you and still does, okay? In other ways, they need some help, okay? That's for sure. But right now, you're the one asking for help, okay? Now, if you had a magic wand, we're going to use your imagination here because that's where everything lives, all right? If you had a magic wand, and you can imagine those family members.
Okay.
We lose our guest?
I think we lost our guest.
He's still there. I don't know what happened.
Maybe he hit the mute button.
He might have. Let me just refresh and see what's going on.
I like him. I do like him a lot.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll get him back
Say
in a
that again?
second.
Here you go. We got you back.
There you are. So I'm
Did you hear what I said?
imagining my family, and I have a magic wand, and that's the last we lost you.
Okay, the next thing would be, and you could tell them what you really want from them, not just what you're angry about, not just what you're upset with them about, but what you actually want from them that would make things better. What would that be? Say it out loud.
Honesty.
Honesty.
I look back. I look back now, and my entire life was a lie. That I kid you not. I'm going to say 80% of my life was a lie. I want honesty from them.
Okay. All right. So now,
my mom married a guy. My mom married a guy that beat me for 7 years, black and blue. I went to 32.
Right.
I went to 32 different schools. So
right. I gotcha. Okay. So what I want, try these words. What I want is to us to be honest, and for you to recognize that I didn't deserve what I received from you, and I want you to apologize to me.
I can see that, but that would coming from them.
Try saying it out loud and see how you feel.
I want complete honesty. I want complete honesty, and I want you to apologize to me.
I want you to apologize to me because the way you treated me is not okay and never will be okay.
Because the way you treated me was not okay and never will be okay.
And I'm still holding on to the anger and the hurt about it.
And I'm still holding on to the anger and hurt about it.
And right now, I want you to own it, to them you're talking about. I want you to own it, your mistakes, and apologize to me for making them.
I want you to own it and apologize to me for making the mistakes that you made.
And treating me ways that I did not deserve to be treated.
You treated me ways that I did not deserve to be treated.
Now, how are you feeling as you say these words to them now, in your imagination?
I feel pretty good.
Say why. Elaborate.
Well, even though that I know, even though that I know that I will never speak to them again.
Right.
It does make me feel a little better inside. I can imagine that anger as I'm saying those words, as I'm imagining standing in front of every one of those CSers. I can let that anger go as the words are leaving.
Yeah, see, it feels better, doesn't it?
It does.
It's a relief. It's not all of it, but it's a piece of it, right?
Yes, sir. It is.
Yeah.
Now,
see, that's the power of our imagination.
Go ahead, Chris.
That's right. Absolutely. I'd like to share something.
Is that okay?
Very similar, and I know
Jeremy, is it okay if he talks right now?
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
go ahead.
Okay, Chris.
Well, okay. So I know I've shared this story before on our other show, Second Sight. I don't think I've ever shared it here, but it's very similar to what Val's talking about. You know, years ago, I'd gotten kind of depressed about things because I knew I was very good at what I do, being a psychic, but the opportunity wasn't coming to me the way I thought it should. I was helping so many people, and I was getting very little in return. You know, people just, you know, it was a bad situation for me. And what happened was I had a cousin who was very, very close to me, and she had gotten into a fight when I was married with my wife, and that just destroyed our relationship. And my cousin, her name is Louisa, was more than a cousin. She was my sister. She was my best friend. She knows things about me even today that nobody has ever known about me. Okay? And I love this woman. I love my cousin more than anything in the world. And we didn't speak for years. And I remember driving on the side of the highway, and I said to my guys, I said, what am I doing wrong? What do I have to do to progress in my life? And I heard my guide say to me, to progress in your future, you have to make peace with your past. So I'm like, what? Cool. So I pulled to the side of the road. I'm like, listen, you have to elaborate.
There you
go. You can't just tell me a riddle. And he says to me again, to progress in your future, you have to make peace with your past. So I said, well, what do I have to make peace with? And Spirit said to me, Christopher, and nobody calls me Christopher. He says, Christopher, it's an individual thing. You have to figure out it's something different for everybody. And like a bolt of lightning, it hit me. I had to forgive my cousin. I didn't want to because I didn't think I was wrong, but I had to. And Spirit said to me, you know, you don't ever have to speak with her again, but forgive her and give her the opportunity to forgive you. So in that moment, I was very emotional, and I'm not a real emotional guy, but I was very emotional, and I called her for the first time in about 3 years, and she was stunned to hear my voice. And I said, Louisa, I forgive you for everything I feel you did to me, and I'm asking you to please forgive me for everything you feel I've done to you. And we forgave each other. Now, here it is years later, and we haven't spoken a word since. But since that moment...
That's a great story. I appreciate you sharing that. It's heartfelt. Let me add something to that. What I've found in my experiences, and this doesn't necessarily apply to what you're saying. I don't think it does. It sounds like what happened with you is great. But just there's another piece of this for other people to hear, is that when we forgive someone, it has absolutely no power. It's a false thing to do unless the person you're forgiving will change that behavior or forgive you or whatever it is you work out together. It has no power unless you're forgiving yourself. But if it has to do with another person that you want to work something out with, and you're close enough to that person, you see them all the time, they have to be willing to say, I appreciate what you're saying, and I will make it up to you in some form that works for both of us, so your forgiveness has power. That's an important piece. Because a lot of people, they do forgiveness, and then they think it's all done, but it's not done unless there's just change in behavior. And the behavior doesn't have to be the other person. It could be the person who's giving the forgiveness. There's a lot of pieces to that puzzle. But, forgiveness can be very powerful if it's heartfelt and if it's genuine and if there's a change in behavior. I remember a story about this guy. He wrote about it a lot, but he was in the Second World War over in Germany, and one of the guards was punishing him for whatever reason. He's a Jewish guy, and he was whipping him with a whip and welts on his skin and all that kind of stuff. And he just surrendered to the higher power, whatever you want to call it. This energy moved through him, the person being whipped, to the guard, and the guard dropped the whip and sent him back to his place where he was living and never bothered him ever again. Shows the power of that kind of energy. It's just amazing.
You know, just to share on my part, I had a wonderful teacher. He was a rabbi who founded the interfaith seminary that I attended, and he was he came to the United States shortly after the beginning of the war, and the remainder of his family was still in Hungary, and every one of his family members was killed in the Holocaust. And he had this amazing approach to life, and he used to say, "I can never forgive what they did to my family and to thousands and millions of others." He says, "But I refuse to hate them." He said, "Because hatred is like taking poison and expecting the other person to die."
Right. Yeah. See, so that's good. A lot of times, forgiveness, when we change something within ourselves or the other person or both, then it has power, because that energy that came through that guy and that in my dream and in whoever's had that kind of experience, recognize it's a gesture of love. It's a powerful, powerful gesture of love. That's what it really is. And it changes us in a good way.
Absolutely.
And it's amazing. It's
and
interfaith, it's all denominational, it's every direction.
Absolutely.
For every human being on this earth.
Listeners, if you have a question for Mr. Logan or you'd like to speak with Mr. Logan, our call-in number tonight is 818-431-8214. Again, 818-431-8214. Jeremy?
Yes. Mr. Logan, how did you manifest working with larger numbers of people? Did you get nervous?
Good question. Good question. Well, I'll tell you what, I was doing prosperity readings and relationship readings at the Whole Life Expo in San Francisco years ago. And I had this in my mind that I wasn't working with, a number of people that I really wanted to do. I was available and ready to do that. And I just put it out. I was in a good energy level. I've been doing a lot of readings with people, and I was in a good energy level. And I just said, I would like to work with larger numbers of people. And I kind of had this vision of a little manifesting hummingbird, flying around and going back and connecting with this one situation, and brought me back a name. And the name was a guy named Peter Riley, which I'm still friends with. And he told me about this group of people that they were wanting to start a seminar company. And it was to be called Sage Seminars. I was talking about that earlier to some degree. But anyway, I got a call and just let it go. I wasn't doing anything else. I just let it go. Kept back to doing my readings. And so then I got a call one Sunday afternoon from this lady. She said, "Peter Riley tells me you can hear in a person's voice what is blocking them and help them turn it around." And I said, "Oh, yes, I can." I was proud of it when I can do it. And she says, "Well, great." She says, "Can you do that for me?" And I says, "Yes, I can." And she says, "Can you do that for my husband?" I said, "Sure." And she said, "Can you do it now?" And they were going to drive up from Rohnert Park, Santa Rosa, down to Santa Fe. And so, sure. So we started that up going. And it was a certain point they were realizing after introducing me to groups of people that they knew, and I was able to really help just about all of them get to a better place. And he says, "Well, we're going to start this seminar company, and we want you to be a part of it." And so then they were flying me all over the country to different major cities where they were doing the seminars with other instructors too, not just me. But that had never happened to me before. That was all a part of my manifesting bird. And when I asked for that, like a manifesting, that's why I help coach people in using the law of attraction to manifest things that they want. And that's because my experiences, I've been able to do that. There's more, but I think that's a good answer right there. Does that work?
Ladies and gentlemen,
think so too.
it does. It does. I just want to say that, ladies and gentlemen, our guest tonight is Val Logan, ordained minister with a Doctor of Divinity from the Spiritist Church, certified hypnotherapist, spiritual counselor, and relationship coach. And Val, please tell our listeners how they can get in touch with you and about your services.
Oh, sure. My website is www.fulfillingrelationships.com. That's spelled F as in Frank, U-L, F as in Frank, I-L-L-I-N-G, and then relationships, plural. So it's fulfillingrelationships.com. Email's the same. It's val@fulfillingrelationships.com. And my phone number is 707-681-9707. That's 707-681-9707. I work by phone. I work by Skype. And anywhere in the world, you got a phone, and you can give me a call, and we can do some work. I give free consultations to begin with to see if there's a fit, and then we give it a shot. Appreciate
Wonderful.
that. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate you. Chris?
Yeah, thanks.
Guys, Vic, why don't you ask the next question, Vic?
Okay, I just want to clarify with Jeremy because I think Jeremy was trying to give me an edit on this, and I'm not sure exactly where we're at. So please, Jeremy.
Yeah, skip 5, go to 6.
Okay. Val, how does one talk with one's critical self, and what are the words your inner critic uses?
Okay. Very good question. It goes along with what Jeremy was asking for a little support in, because he has a critical self of him and of his family, so we can help relieve that some. We did give an essence of that. So basically, the critical self has been brainwashed. The critical self believes he or she is trying to help you, to help us. That's what he or she was taught. It's taught there's only one way to do it. It's my way or the highway. I'm your parent, I'm your mom, I'm your dad, I'm your relative, whatever it is, you got to do it my way.
That sounds
and
like
the critical self, the critical self hears that and says, that's reality. So I'm going to try to help you the way your parents did. But the critical self doesn't refer to that beginning. Critical self can say words like, what's wrong with you? Why didn't you do it better? You're better than that. Get it together. Or you don't deserve this because you haven't worked hard enough, or you don't care enough, or you're not enough. Whatever it is, it has something negative to say, with the idea being, I'm trying to help you and you just don't get it. With that kind of support, we don't need enemies.
Well, we have
right?
about 4 minutes left. Yeah, no, I agree with you. We have about 4 minutes left for the first hour, and I want to ask you a question. Have you ever dealt with somebody who was extremely suicidal, and how do you deal with somebody like that?
It's kind of the same kind of approach. I don't specialize in that kind of thing, but when people are really depressed and they really have anger and they're taking it out on themselves, that's the extreme critic going on, right? So I would help them get in touch with that critic and change the approach. And the approach would be, I don't want to hear you telling me how bad I am or what I need to do that I'm never going to be able to do. I want you to encourage me to improve myself in a positive way. Now that is totally different than what a lot of people are used to hearing. They're not used to hearing in the back of their mind, I know you can do it, you're really great, and we'll help you, we'll take it a step at a time, and we love you, and you're the best thing that's ever happened. They usually don't hear that. So we stop it in the middle of whatever the words might be, because each person has their own special wording that puts them down from the inside, the self-talk. And then I guide the question and answer to be something like this. The critic says, what's wrong with you? And then I say to the person, let's talk to that critic. And ask the critic, why are you telling me this? Right?
Mm-hmm.
And I keep on going with it. And right in the beginning, it takes the critic off guard because the critic is not used to being questioned, like a parental authority is not used to being questioned, right? That's where the critic came from. The critic is a copy of a parent or an authority figure and putting the own individual spin on it. So what I help is guide it back to the critic needing to learn how to be kind, how to be encouraging, how to be positive in a genuine way, not pretending or feigning it, but being genuine. And I help each person get in touch with how to curb that negative and turn it into a positive. And that's what that ad meant, turning the critic into becoming a powerful ally in a positive direction. It takes some work, but it's well worthwhile because of the creativity a person can achieve by doing that. And usually we don't know how to do it. Yeah.
Our guest is
What's
Val
that?
Logan. He's Val at fulfillingrelationships.com. His website is fulfillingrelationships.com. And we will be back with more with Val Logan in the second hour. He's psychic medium Chris George. He's Jeremy Moonshine Adams. I'm Victor the Voice Furman, and you're listening to Vision Quest on the DTM Wicked Radio Network, and we will be back.
All right. That was a really good first hour, guys.
Yeah, it was. Thank you, Mr. Logan, for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Hello? Hello? Who's that? Whoa! Water!
Rolling Hills Asylum. Located in East Bethany, New York, just minutes between two major airports, Rolling Hills Asylum is a hotbed of paranormal activity. They have been featured on Travel Channel's Ghost Adventures, Paranormal Challenge, as well as Sci-Fi Channel's Ghost Hunters. Rolling Hills Asylum has been named the #2 most haunted location in the United States by HauntedNorthAmerica.com. The property was established on January 1st, 1827, as the county poor farm. Throughout the years, it has operated as a poor farm, infirmary, orphanage, tuberculosis hospital, nursing home, and more. Past residents and inmates consist of widows, orphans, physically disabled, mentally unstable, murderers, and more. Over 1,700 bodies are buried in unmarked graves, and hundreds more deaths went undocumented. Rolling Hills Asylum is known for a plethora of phenomena, including disembodied voices, doors slamming, footsteps, sounds of furniture moving, full-body apparitions, shadow people, ghostly touches, and numerous Class A EVP. Rolling Hills Asylum proudly offers historical and flashlight tours, 4 and 8 hour public ghost hunts, 8 and 9 hour private ghost hunts, and more. By appointment or pre-booking only. For more information, please visit www.rollinghillsasylum.com. That's www.rollinghillsasylum.com. Or give them a call, 585.
Back to Vision Quest Hour 2. Everyone, welcome back to Vision Quest Hour 2 with psychic medium Chris George, Jeremy Moonshine Adams, and me. I'm Victor the Voice Furman. Our guest tonight is Mr. Val Logan, an ordained minister with a Doctor of Divinity from Spiritist Church, a certified hypnotherapist, spiritual counselor, and relationship coach. He's a master of seeing, hearing, and feeling what most people do not. This sets him apart as a unique guide into the uncharted territory of conscious awareness. With your willingness, he'll take you where most people have never gone before and help you to more easily remember who you really are. He has the ability to see deep into your heart and soul, hear the hidden feelings behind your words, and guide you. He's a truth seeker extraordinaire. Deep inside, you have always known the truth. Now you can own it and live by it. Now it's even more timely for that revelation. Welcome back, Val Logan.
Welcome back.
Thank you, Victor. Appreciate it.
Well, fellas, before we start the second hour of questioning, I just want to clarify something that I said in the beginning. And Victor, you didn't hear it. I pretty much said that the show this week sucked, and I was embarrassed by it. And because I like to hold, I like to think that, you know, between Second Sight and Vision Quest, we should be held to a higher standard. If we've been doing it a long time, and I consider us to be very professional and really good at what we do, and that's why we have, you know, the listeners that we do. I don't want people to think that I'm talking bad about the psychics. You know, they did their best, and they you know, it's very, very difficult. The hardest thing for a psychic to do is a phone reading. It's very difficult when you don't have the person in front of you, and it is an extra talent on top of being psychic. So that being said, well, I did say one psychic sucked, but, you know, Victor, I'm sorry, I had to. That Alexandra, but what she, you know, the way she, some of the things she said was just ridiculous. Saying my girlfriend was going to have some kind of face disease, and that I was going to meet a hot blonde, and oh, guess what? She's a kind of a hot blonde. I don't know.
The face disease is every time you kiss her.
Oh, you got jokes, but really, I don't want people to think that I'm talking so bad about the psychics. I'm not. I know that they, you know, it's not easy to do phone readings, and they did their best, but
You know, Chris, it's a difficult format when you have one psychic, let alone three psychics,
right.
And perhaps one psychic might have been the flow might have been better. That's all. And you know what? But Chris, I forgive you for selecting those guests and putting that show together.
Yes.
Wait a minute. Now, see, Chris overrode me because I actually had Mr. Logan for last week's show. And Chris, and Chris just,
I'm glad I got this one.
He got on his high horse. This is my show. I'll do whatever the hell I want to. Told me to go to hell and book the other three people. And, you know, it was horrible. I'm hurt.
Well, I feel forgiveness and love flowing throughout this communication right now, and it's time to move on.
I do too.
We're good. In my defense, I've also worked with psychic people who were stuck, because psychics can get stuck too.
Not this psychic.
No problem.
One more thing. I just want to say one more thing. The last time we did the show with the psychics, they were fantastic. Esther was amazing on the show.
Right.
Esther was really amazing on the show.
Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. Yeah. There we go.
So anyway, let's start with the interview. Jeremy, why don't you take the next question?
How does one resolve...
I think we're up to 7.
I was talking, man. I was reading. How does one resolve conflicts or solve problems in a positive way?
Very good question. Now, there's a couple of women who wrote this one book and then a series of books. But the first book was how to speak so that kids will listen, and how to listen so that kids will speak. And that goes with all of us, no matter what age, right? And they were really good at what they were writing, and it was helpful for parents. But the idea they came across and had found through negotiations with people, unions, and just across the board, it was a formula. And the formula is, when you have a conflict with somebody, that you kind of guide it into looking for solutions. There's a problem. Let's look at the problem. Here's how I see the problem. You write it down. You have the other person or people write down how they see the problem, okay? And then you start brainstorming about solutions, right? You brainstorm about solutions. You write each solution down without criticism of the solution, because it's brainstorming. Criticism will destroy brainstorming if you let it happen. You just write them all down, and you come up with 10 or 20, whatever it is, and there's some of them you'll all agree none of them, those that are selected, are going to work. Some of those others, we'll talk about it and see if they're going to work. And then finally you get down to one or two. You sort them out. And then you say, okay, we're going to choose one. Let's choose one that we can both be happy with, and we'll test it out to see if it works. And if it doesn't work, we'll try another one. And if it needs to be changed a little bit and tweaked, then we'll do that. That is, in essence, the formula. So it starts out with we kindly talk to each other, here's a problem. Instead of arguing, instead of finding fault, instead of trying to prove the other person wrong, etc., we nail it down, we break it down, and see, okay, here's where I see the problem. The other person says, well, here's where I see the problem. No judgment, no defending, no attacking, just write it down.
In the early 70s...
a mystical thing starts happening when people agree to do that. They start realizing, wait a minute, maybe we can be a team here. Maybe we can help each other find solutions that work for both of us, right? Both of us.
In the early 70s, there was
Does that answer your question so far?
Yes.
Okay. There's another piece to that. When people start writing down things that they want, like using the law of attraction or manifesting, that kind of thing, is some people will do that and nothing happens, or things happen that aren't along with what they want. Oftentimes it's because when they write it down, it's not meaningful enough for them to be real. So they leave out a lot of things. Like, for example, I want us to be happy. What does happiness look like? Give an example. Well, happiness looks like me relaxing in the woods or on the beach. What does happiness look like for you, my partner? And then she will write down what she sees as happiness. And then we start to, once we have that relationship. But in the beginning, you have to write down what's meaningful for you, and then you're being more honest about it. Not so general, not so vague, but more specific. And the more specific you can get with an example, the more meaningful, the more truthful, the more honest it becomes. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Perfect sense.
Absolutely. You know, I remember back in the early 70s.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I remember back in the early 70s, there was a concept in those days called transactional analysis. And it basically said that in any communication, there are three levels that people can communicate, either as a parent, an adult, or a child. And as soon as you have a communication where it becomes parent-child or child-parent, the communication breaks down. But when you have adult to adult, that's when progress is made. And adult to adult says, let's look at what we can agree on, let's discuss what we can't disagree on without judgment, without defensiveness, without putting each other down.
Right. It's a good rule of thumb. To apply it, it can be challenging.
Yes.
That's why I help people boil that down so they can hear each other more deeply, so they can use that particular formula to help them. Because otherwise they'll be arguing over the formula because they're not hearing each other yet. And since I've sharpened my ears, I can hear what they actually want to say and don't know, and then when they do say it and they feel different, like you did, Jeremy, then it starts to open up a whole new world. You mean I can actually say what I want? I can actually feel it and feel better as a result of it? Wow, that's something totally new to a lot of people, because they're taught to repress and suppress and hold back and shut down and withhold and all that stuff.
Yeah, there's one thing.
So then it helps open people into the new territory of possibilities. Not pretend, not fantasy. Here's a good one. The difference for me between fantasy and positive, let's say, creative ideas is fantasy is something you don't believe in and don't apply. And creative ideas are things you're looking for a way to apply them so you can actually live them. To me, that's the difference. But imagination is used in both cases.
Let me ask you a question real quick.
Go ahead.
In helping friends with problems, I always tell them to break life down into its simplest form, because if you do that, then you will never, ever make a bad decision. Okay, well, I've got a problem. Well, if I do this, what is the consequence? Is it good or bad? Consequences can be good or bad, so you walk through it. Okay, if I do this, what is the consequence of that? If I do this, what is the consequence of that? Okay, this one's better. So you just break it down. Would you agree to that? Do you say that? Would you say that that's a good way to get on the right path?
It's a good start. A lot of times people's emotions get so intense they can't manage that. So we have to help people breathe, relax into looking at what they're really unhappy about and what would cause it to feel better. That if that's what you mean by breaking it down, I would say yes. But they have to consider what the solution might be that they would start to feel genuinely better about it. Like, for example, someone says, well, I want you to apologize. And the person says, I'm sorry. All right. Which leads to another thing right now, which the person says, I'm sorry, but the person listening to that, they don't believe a word of it. So the idea of, yes, I'd like you to apologize, but you want it to be a heartfelt, meaningful apology, not just because they have to say it to get it out of the way.
You're right.
They don't mean it yet.
I cannot stand fake apologies. It's like spitting in somebody's face. You know, if you come to me with a fake apology, I'm going to smack the fuck out of you. Plain and simple. I don't want to hear it. If it's not true, then I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, so it has to be broken down, like you said, into a genuine change of experience. It has to be genuine. It has to fit the situation. Like in the field of law, for example, they say a lot of times the punishment has to fit the crime. Well, it doesn't always, but it's still the law. So there's some problems there. But we're talking about interpersonal relationships with the people, that adult-to-adult communication, when you can kind of recognize, oh, I really don't want to make you an enemy, and you don't want me to be your enemy, so let's see what we can do to genuinely help each other make a difference. So we can shift it to something that's doable for both of us, and that we can feel better as a result. Not just fix the problem, but the feeling of what the solution is like. Remember, Jeremy, I was asking you, I didn't really finish because we went on a little bit, but how you were feeling as a result of what you said in your imagination? Because that is so important, because if you're not feeling something good and result from that, then we have to go to another angle. We have to go deeper to get to a better feeling.
I agree.
Yeah, it can't just be. But if you feel it right away, that's great. But if you don't, well, you know, you'd say something like, well, yeah, it sounds good.
Well,
right?
You know, I guess it's easier for me because it's been so long.
Yeah.
But, you know, can you explain to me what is the law of attraction?
Yeah, good idea. Law of attraction is basically having to do with frequency vibration. And we're all capable of hearing in somebody's words, in their action, and the words that they say, if they mean what they say or not. If you really mean something that you write down as a description of what you want, and when you read those words, your energy shifts and you feel on top of the world, just the reading of the words themselves. Then you're using the law of attraction to support you, because that vibration goes out into the universe. The universe will respond to it and said, like, likes, like. Here we're going to bring you something good to match that energy. Now, if you said to yourself, I'm going to go through the motions and write down stuff because that's what all the gurus, all the teachers tell me I'm supposed to do, I'll do it. I don't care about those words. They don't mean anything to me, but I will write it down anyway. Screw you. I'll do it because you think I'm supposed to. Guess what? Frequency vibration goes out into the universe. I don't care about it. It's not real. It doesn't mean anything to me. The universe says, okay, like, we'll give that to you. Does that explain it?
How did you meet your wife using the law of attraction?
Good question. So basically, I was in between relationships. I wrote down a description of the kind of relationship, the qualities and the characteristics, not the particular person, because I didn't know the particular person. I wrote down the qualities and the characteristics of what I wanted in my ideal relationship, and I meant them. They felt good to me. They were right. So then I started doing the things we were talking about earlier, about getting myself together, doing things that I'm really good at doing. And I attracted the people that wanted to create the Sage Seminar Company. And we were flying, all of us, to Saddlebrook, New Jersey, and a hotel there. We were up in the hotel and doing the seminar. And a bunch of the people that were there, they were like saying, oh, ho hum, been there, done that, what else have you got, right? They weren't taking this very seriously because they were basically stuck, and they were there to get some help. They didn't know what they needed or how they needed it. They just know that they weren't getting it. And the exercise we were having to do were good for most people, but not for them, okay, for most of them. And so one of the founders came up to me and said, they're not taking us very seriously, Val. What are we going to do? He was kind of smiling. He said, oh, okay, I gotcha. Give them to me. I'm hungry. I wasn't going to punish them. I was going to work with them with the support of everybody and all the staff. So we sat everybody down. And I got up in front of him, and said to him straight across, I said, are you human beings? Do you feel anything? He could have heard a pin drop 10 stories down, all the way. And I said, I am available. And we started working with different people, most of them that were there. And when we finished, we were all crying, and I was, everybody was, for joyful relief, because a lot of these people had been abused, terribly abused. And they were just holding on to that to protect themselves and didn't know how to release them. I helped them. They were better because of it and wanted that and didn't know they were going to get it till they worked with me. And that was so great. It was good for all of us. And I was flying back 30,000 feet in the air. And I said, yes, this is what I'm here to do. This is my calling. This is me. This is what I do best. And I said, I've got it all. Oops. I didn't have it all. I had that skill that I was developing that benefited everybody. Yes, I had that. But the relationship I did not have that I wanted, that I had written down a description of. And so this woman's image came into my mind. And so my alter critical self said, if you could see me, I'm opening but I am talking to my hand, right? So my hand is saying, she's with somebody, you're going to get hurt, you'll be disappointed, give it up. And I had a talk with myself. I said, wait a minute, were you there with all those people that were having problems and wanted some support, and we turned it around with their willingness and that kind of thing? Were you there? Did you experience that? My critical self? He said, okay, you're right. I was there. We did turn it around. So, critical self, monkey mind, what do we have to lose? Not a thing. Let's go for it. So, make a longer story short, I was having a meeting with some people that were trying out for the company, the Sage Seminar Company, and this lady was a part of that. I asked her to have some dinner, and we were sitting there and quiet, and she was talking, I was talking, and she said, I was quiet for a moment, and she said to me, are you okay? And I said, yeah, I'm good. She said, well, do you have everything you want? I said, no, I don't. She said, well, what do you want? I said, I want you. Her eyes got big around, her jaw dropped, and we started talking.
Val, you're a stud.
What? Well, hey, I was feeling it at the time.
That's good.
It doesn't mean I'm always able to do that, but right then and there, I did.
That's awesome. That's outstanding.
And she responded.
Oh, we lost him. Mr. Logan?
I said stud and everything went crazy.
Denny.
I don't know what happened there. That happened before, too.
Well, hello, everyone. You're listening to Vision Quest. The call-in number is 818-431-8214 if you'd like to speak to our excellent guest, Val Logan.
And his website is www.fulfillingrelationships.com. His email is val@fulfillingrelationships.com. And his phone number is 707-681-9707, 707-681-9707.
Well, while we're waiting for our guest to come back, and we were talking about the law of attraction, I'll share a story with you guys. A few years ago when I was married, my daughter Jessica, my oldest daughter, says, Dad, am I going to camp this year? And I was having a rough year. It was the year after I had my heart attack. I wasn't working. And the camp she goes to is for my two kids, is $4,500. And I said, you know what, Jessica, I really can't afford it. I'm not working. We're going to have to live off our savings for a while. And you can't go. I'm sorry. She says, oh, no way. She went out, she rented the movie The Secret, you could get the DVD, or she bought it or whatever she did. And she was just a kid, and she spent her own money to go get The Secret, and she watched it 5 times in a row. She says to me, Daddy, I'm going to camp. I said, Jessica, no, you're not, because, I'm not going to spend that extra money right now while I'm not working. She says, listen to me good, Daddy. She was about 13 at the time. She goes, I'm going to camp. And so was Nicole, who is my younger daughter. She goes, I've been practicing The Secret. I've been doing it for the last couple of days, and it's going to work. Somehow, I'm going to camp. I go to the bagel store that morning, and the owner of the camp, his name is Jack, really nice guy. He says to me, he goes, Chris, I see that your girls haven't signed up for camp this year. I said, well, Jack, honestly, I said, I'm not working right now. I won't be going back to work for about another month, and I don't feel like I really can't spend that extra $4,500 to send my kids to camp. I know you have the best camp in Brooklyn, but I just can't do it right now. He said, my camp isn't camp without your girls there. He says, come down today with your girls, get the papers to us signed. He said, I want you to get their physicals. They're going to camp. They don't have to pay. I said, I can't do that. He says, listen to me. He goes, I'm telling you, your kids are going to camp this year, and they don't have to pay a dime. He said, it would be my pleasure to put your kids in camp this year. And I went home, and I looked at my wife at the time. I'm like, you're not going to believe this. And I explained to her what had happened, and Jessica comes walking out with her big blue eyes and this big smile on her face, and she says, I told you I'm going to camp. She goes, Daddy, why would you ever doubt me? And I'm like, you know what? That's my girl right there, and that's my secret story.
What a great story, Chris. That's really
That is
wonderful
a great story.
Yeah.
Denny, do we have our guest back?
It doesn't seem so.
Val, are you back?
All right. Well, he's not back. So what do we got, Victor?
Well, I just want to say, I have my own law of attraction story, and this is the absolute gospel truth. Chris knows this for a fact. Jeremy, I believe, knows this story. But when my wife, before she and I met, she was trying to create the man of her dreams. And what she did was she created what used to be called a treasure map, which is another form of manifesting or creating the images that you use in the law of attraction. And she basically cut out a picture of Superman. She cut out a picture of a huge heart. And she cut out a picture of a lot of money. And she wanted Superman with a huge heart and a lot of money. And guess what? She got me.
That's funny. I wonder
That's true.
No, that's a great story too. And what about you, Jeremy? You have a law of attraction story?
You know what? I knew what I wanted. I always knew what I wanted in a woman. And I found it in Kenesha, man. She has went above and beyond, and you guys know that she has taken care of me and the kids and busting her ass at work and taking me to the doctor 3 or 4 times a damn week. You know what? She just kind of, I knew her for a while on thumb, and then when we met, man, it was just instant.
Jeremy,
and
you are a blessed man, my friend.
Oh, I know it, brother. I know it. Kenesha is an amazing woman, and I am the luckiest SOB on the face of the earth. Not to mention the best looking too. So
there you go.
Well, I have a little story.
I'm back with you now. Can you hear me?
Yes, Val. We got it back. Yay, we got it back. Okay.
Yeah, I'm on a different phone, but I got back to you.
All right, well, Jeremy, why don't you take the next, or Victor, why don't you take the next question?
Val, actually, while you were away, we were each sharing a little bit of our own law of attraction story, and I shared the story about my wife before she and I actually met. My wife, back in the day, one of the forms of manifesting was called creating a treasure map, or using visual or physical images and items to create the image that you're trying to manifest, that you're working on manifesting. And she cut out a picture of Superman. She cut out a picture of a big heart. And she cut out a picture of a big stack of money. And she put Superman with a big heart and a lot of money. And she got me.
Hey, how about that?
There you go.
Oh, good for you. Oh, good to hear.
There you go. So let me ask you a question. We've shared examples of how the law of attraction works,
right.
But it seems that the law of attraction for some people doesn't always work. Why?
Well, we've been alluding to it earlier, but usually, I would say 99% of the time, it's because of that critical ogre in the back of our minds. The critical ogre will tell us, even when you start to imagine or write something down, just like mine did when I was 30,000 feet in the air, you can't have that. You're going to be hurt. I'm here to protect you. I'm here to help you. I don't want you to get hurt. I don't want you to be disappointed. I don't want you to be punished. So the protector comes in and shuts everything down. And that's usually what happens when people start writing down what they want or imagining what they want. And that's when it doesn't work. So that means what's working is the negative stuff that's going on. It'll either cancel it out or it'll keep the negative happening. And that's usually the reason why it doesn't, most of the time.
Okay. Jeremy?
Yes, sir. How can I help people use the law of attraction more effectively?
Well, one of the things would be, number one, to work with me if they get stuck, because I can hear it and expedite the process, and I have a formula that they can use, and they'll come up with their own words about whatever it is that the quality and the characteristic to start writing that down. But see, then they need to check it out with someone like me. So we can take a look at it and see where the energy is not quite right yet. We can tweak it verbally, but we also need to work on the deeper energy level that causes it not to work. And that is hidden. That's hidden from people oftentimes. They don't recognize it because they're so familiar with it. It's so automatic. They don't even know it's there. And so that's how we can get it to work for people rather than against them.
Folks, the call-in number to speak with Mr. Logan is 818-431-8214. He's willing to take some callers. So call in, folks.
And Val, again, please share with our listeners how they can find out more about you and your work and your services.
Well, number one, they can call me at 707-681-9707 for a free consultation before we do anything together. And if things seems like there's a fit, we can keep on going, and I can be of service. The website is www.fulfillingrelationships. That's F as in Frank, F as in Frank, ILLING, relationships plural, fulfillingrelationships.com. And the same with the email. You can send me an email at Val. The email is Val, V-A-L, at fulfillingrelationships.com. And
wonderful.
Again,
thank you for sharing that.
The phone number one more time is 707-681-9707. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Val, it looks like we've lost Chris, and we're going to try and get him back. But in the interim, what is the difference between the left brain and the right brain approach, and how can you help people to use them both?
Okay. Good question again. The left brain is the organizer. The right brain is the creativity and the feeling part of ourselves. So let's say you want to create something. You have a goal. So you write down the steps of the goal. You break them down so they're manageable. You can actually do them. And then you work on how you feel about each and every step as you take them. Because issues will come up that could interfere with the goal because there's resistance and there's fear or there's hesitancy or it's new territory. People have never done it before, and so they hesitate. And they're familiar with other ways of being. And so even though they have the goal setting written out, they're either not taking the steps or they're not feeling good about it. So we'd have to go deeper in order to make that happen in the right way. And the left brain, here's how I like to do the left brain. When I'm talking in front of people, I pick up a book and says, the left brain person picks the book up and says, I like the title. And the right brain person picks up the book and says, feels good, puts it down. So the difference is organized and feeling and creativity. And sometimes there's a war between them because the logical mind says one thing and the feeling mind can say another. And I help people put it together so that their organizing mind and their feeling mind are helping each other. Does that make sense?
Yes, I think Chris is having some issues. Chris, you there?
Yeah, I'm on Skype on my phone. I don't know why it won't work on the computer. It's not showing up, but it's okay. I'm on the phone now. I just can't see you guys.
Okay, not a problem. So, Val, just to touch upon that one more time, I think we've sort of touched upon this before, and I'd like to reemphasize this now that we're talking about left and right brain. The importance of actually seeing something not as a possibility, but as an actuality, as a fait accompli in fulfillment of the law of attraction.
Yes. When you see it and you feel good about it, that's the difference. You can see something and not feel good about it, and that stops it. If you see something and you feel really good, eager about it, then that propels you forward to help create it in all different ways. And the left brain oftentimes, says, well, I have to avoid myself a feeling and be logical about it, right? And sometimes that is a good solution, and sometimes it's not a good solution. Like one time I was working with the person, and the person says, I'm asking her, well, how are you feeling about what we're doing? And she says, oh, kind of neutral. I said, neutral. Does neutral mean you're not feeling anything? She said, yeah. And I said, that's not neutral, is it? Neutral, devoid of feeling, is numb. So she
That's
thought,
correct.
right, but it wasn't. It wasn't accurate. So see, sometimes we think we're right when we say something. It's not accurate because it's not describing what the feeling actually is. And here's a good description of feeling, okay? So I'm going to use gibberish. Gibberish, as we all know, is a impromptu kind of thing you say in a group when you're practicing expressing yourself. It's nonsensical language. You're not going to understand one word that I say, okay? It's called gibberish. They say it in one of those exercises. Mm-hmm. So gibberish is this. Now listen closely. Now you couldn't understand one word I said, and what was the feeling?
I was like, what the hell is that?
Upset. I think that you were upset about something.
Yes. Right? Or what the hell was that? But see, the feeling was frustration, anger, whatever, right?
Right.
Hmm.
Without knowing the words, you got it.
Right.
Now, express something else. Well, I actually hate you. So the words you understood, but the feeling was love.
Right.
Right?
Absolutely.
So we want the words and the feelings to match each other, genuinely. And when that happens, we're usually in alignment. You've heard of Abraham. Abraham talks about alignment a lot.
Yes.
And so when you align your feelings and your words together, then it's very powerful, because then your energy will follow, because your words and your feelings are in harmony with each other. And that's the left
Val,
and the
what
right
about
brain.
visualization at the same time?
Visualization is good. A lot of people have trouble visualizing. But if you can visualize and have a good feeling about it, or if you visualize it and see where you can tweak it to make it a better feeling, then visualizing can be really helpful. It's really a good thing. Some people say that in order to have an out-of-body experience and learn to travel that way, is imagining, using your imagination. You pick one room in your house and you imagine everything in the room, and you do that for a month, that kind of thing, that eventually you can have out-of-body experiences. I don't know. I haven't been able to do it yet, but some people have. So imagination is very powerful for all kinds of things. For example, if I asked you three to raise your right hand, you're not going to swear anything, but just raise your right hand, okay? Now you can put it down. But what was the very first thing that came into your mind before you were able to raise that hand?
You're swearing me into court?
Right. No, even before that.
I visualized raising my hand.
That's the only way you can do it. If you could not visualize it raising your hand, you could not do it. It would not happen. It would not work.
Right.
Everything we do or feel or are, if we're imagining it, it's before we actually can do it. So imagination is a very good, important part of our lives. Without it...
Chris, what? I'm sorry, go ahead, sir.
I was going to say, without imagination, we would be mostly robots and animals.
Yeah.
Probably. Maybe they have better imaginations than we do. I don't know.
It's true. It's true. Chris, you want to get 14?
Chris?
Did we lose
I think we've
again?
lost Chris again, unfortunately. Yeah, it's an interesting night. We're having a little bit of interference in the atmosphere tonight for whatever reason. Jeremy, why don't you get it then?
Yeah, he just said that we're going to have to finish the show.
Okay.
What about goal setting? I mean, a lot of people think that setting a goal is, too cliche, and they just won't do it. They refuse to set a goal and go after something. What do you feel about that?
Well, a lot of times that's resistance, and believe it or not, people are afraid of success by follow-through, oftentimes because it's new territory. And new territory is uncomfortable. Believe it or not, when we go into new territory in ways that we've never done that before, we change our identities. Because if I have an experience that I haven't had before, I'm a different person. So that means the old pattern that says I can't follow through with anything, but because if I do, it's going to be totally different. It's vulnerable for people to do that. So then they try to avoid it because they don't. The self-talk says you're not gonna. It's not going to work. You'll try it and it'll hurt. You won't do it. It won't happen. So they try to talk them out of it. So then goal setting becomes uncomfortable because they're not really used to it. Now other people, they're used to setting goals and used to following through and used to achieving from doing that, and so they have a good experience with it. So goal setting itself, there's nothing wrong with it. If the feelings aren't there, then you can keep on doing it as long as you force yourself into it, but eventually you're going to get tired and you're going to stop doing it. Because if your feelings aren't in alignment with it, they're blocked somehow, then you're trying to force yourself to do it out of fear or anger or whatever it is. The whole idea is, again, to release whatever that is from the past that's causing us to perceive the goals that way. Release that, which is what I can help people do. Release that. Sometimes it comes in layers. Release it so that you can then enjoy the goal setting rather than have it be a forced march. You're eager to run up that hill because you can.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, one of the patterns in my own life that I recognized many years ago and that I actively sought out and changed was I used to preconceive challenges in my mind and my imagination as much worse than they actually were in reality. And I came to the understanding way back when that nothing in my imagination, in my preconception, ever is as difficult as it is in reality. And that was a big changer for me. Why do people do that? Why do we build up these constructs in our mind that things are going to be much more difficult than they actually are?
Usually it's because of authority figure controls. Don't do that. It's not going to work. I tried it. It won't work. I'm helping you out here. That's usually something from the past, and it's a variation of the critical self that's trying to help you avoid pain rather than appreciate the growth and the challenge that makes you a better person as a result of it. That's like someone interviewing the businessman, and they say he's successful. And this guy saying to me, he says, well, to what do you attribute your success? How did you do it? He said, simple, right decisions. Right?
Yeah.
So
Yep.
how did you arrive at those right? Yeah. How did you arrive at those right decisions? Wrong decisions.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
we learn by experience, and as we learn by experience, then we have different perceptions of what's possible and what isn't possible.
Well, just how do you work with people? How do you work with people on a one-on-one basis by telephone or Skype?
Yeah, that's it. We do the same sort of thing we did with you. I help we identify the problem where the person seems to be stuck. I listen to the person's voice and guide them through saying different words to role play sometimes, and sometimes it's input. Sometimes the critical self puts up resistance and walls. So then I have a way to communicate with that critical self. Sometimes the critical self says, screw you, I'm not going to help. I've given you a chance. I've told you what to do, and you won't do it. I'm not going to talk to you anymore, and turns their back. And that's a big challenge, but we find ways to talk to that critical self. And once the critical self is online and helpful, then progress can be made. And it's worthwhile. Every step of it is worthwhile. It's reclaiming ourselves in a way that helps us rather than hurts us. I think it was Bertrand Russell, maybe? Yep, Bertrand Russell, I think. He said the challenge is devising a description of a problem that allows a solution to be found. And that's what I usually help people do. We describe it in a way that allows a solution to occur. And sometimes it's unexpected how it happens. Like I'll ask the critical self, why are you criticizing? What are you doing that for? What is your goal? And most of the time, the critical self will say, I'm trying to help you. You just don't listen. My wife and I, relatives were at Lake Tahoe, not too far from us, a couple hours or so. And we were riding bikes, and this one little girl had just come out from the beach in Lake Tahoe and was coming back to her parents, and her mother was yelling at her. She was saying, "What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? We told you not to go into the water with those shoes on. You got them all wet." And so the little girl was crying. And I said to myself, that's where it starts. So unless that pattern shifts, that little girl is going to grow up being critical of herself that way. She'll hold on to it. Whereas if they get a clue and they start shifting that and saying to her, okay, you made a mistake, we forgive you, let's take time to get the shoes dried out, it's okay. But next time, please take off the shoes. That would be a change in approach. And the little girl wouldn't be crying. She would say, oh, okay, I can learn. So that's the idea. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you very much.
I'm going to throw out a big question to you right now, and I don't know.
Okay.
I don't expect you to answer this, but perhaps you can muse on it, perhaps a little bit. How would you, if you had it in your power, to go to the Middle East right now and to work with the Palestinians and the Israelis, what would you do to promote peace?
Good question.
Okay. Wow. Well, first of all, I heard a really good approach of a lady who was, the police department called her in, and she was going to negotiate between some of the gang members and the police department. And one of the things I liked, and I might use this as a way to talk, but first of all, she would say, it's important that you're able to see the reality in the eyes of your opponent. That was her approach to start with. And the police department didn't want to do that, didn't want to approach things that way. The gang members did. They were eager. But the police, they were not going to do that, because somehow that was a threat to their authority, maybe. I don't know. That was just the beginning, right? But what I would do is, if I could get people to talk to each other, I'd find out what the problems would be, and then say, well, we'll do the brainstorming. What would be solutions for everybody, and write them all down. Help them look at what possible solutions there would be, and they would have to be real enough to handle the situations, and that would be a start. That would be a start.
Well,
and,
I think we should enlist you.
So,
I think we should enlist you right now and send you to the Middle East to work with Secretary of State Kerry and all the powers that be, and promote peace and to get the situation resolved and stop the killing and promote peace and perhaps a little more understanding.
Yeah, I think Mother Teresa had a shot at that one time. And she was. They said, if you and there people were sending bombs back and forth and battle in that area over there, and she was praying for peace. She let people know that, and the bombing stopped for a few days, just because maybe her energy was having some effect that way. But that was only temporary. Things have to be done with people actually finding solutions that are workable. And the problems involved probably would be people want to keep the war going, so they keep both sides fighting each other.
It's profitable.
Sometimes it's profitable, and so that would be something that would need to be brought out on the table and people talking about it. See how.
Well,
how
it's greed and power. That's what people want. Greed. It's greed and power. They go after power, and then they want more, and then they want more, and then they want this country, then they want this, and they have that. And I hate the world. I really do. I hate what this world has become, because, Victor, I'm sure that it back in your day, you could still see, and not saying that you're ancient. I know you and Moses went to high school together, but it's cool.
Hey, funny you mentioned that. I've been talking to him the other day here. Go ahead.
But I totally lost my train of thought. Then
Jeremy, I think what we're trying to say is that when my generation, and I was born in the 50s and grew up in the 60s and the 70s, we saw tremendous change. We saw a move from greed and selfishness to compassion for quite some time, and it seems like things run in cycles in this world, in this universe, and the cycle has turned to the other direction. And I really think, it's one of the things that we used to talk about in the peace movement in the 60s was if you saw what you would see through the eyes of who you perceived as your enemy. See your enemy as yourself, literally, and learn compassion. And look at what people are living through and suffering through, that maybe, just maybe, there would be enough impetus to stop. And it's my fervent prayer that happens today.
That's a good saying. I was reading this one book in the past called The Ninth Planet. This guy was talking about being a UFO taking him to visit this ninth planet. And they were talking about his experiences there, and they brought him back, so it was no problem. But during the time, they were talking about another planet that had the same energy level that Earth does, maybe different bodies, but similar. And they were warring. They were, the power, like here, the powers that be were afraid of losing their power, and so they keep the wars going, right? And so all the people on that particular planet, they made a decision. Well, they weren't the soldiers, but they were the civilians. They said, we're not going to have this anymore. And you know what they did? They all got together, and they overthrew the governments, and they went through the military, because the military were relatives, and they weren't going to shoot their own people. And so they took over the whole world and said, we're not going to have this anymore. And that was a planet that actually, according to the story, they actually did that on that particular planet. I've heard that said before. But the whole idea is when you have fear, whether it's power-hungry fear or it's any other kind of fear, fear is the thing that controls the situation. So if you're talking to people without fear, that is a great place to be in.
And on that note, we're going to thank Val. On that note, we're going to thank you. Our time is running short. And Val Logan, please tell our listeners one more time how they can find out more about you and what you do.
I appreciate it. And thanks for having me. And my website is www.fulfillingrelationships.com. That's F as in Frank, U-L, F as in Frank, I-L-L-I-N-G, relationships, plural.com. My email is Val, V-A-L, at fulfillingrelationships.com. And my phone number, call me first. We can arrange something, a free consultation to see if we can work together. And my phone number is 707-681-9707. 707-681-9707. And thank you, all of you, for having me on your radio program. It's been a joy working with all of you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Logan. And next week we have Terry J., an intuitive, medium, pet psychic, horse whisperer, energy healer, remote viewer, and more. So it's going to be a great show, guys.
And thank you for listening to Vision Quest. Thank you, Jeremy Moonshine Adams, psychic medium Chris George, me, I'm Victor the Voice Furman. Join us every week as we make the unbelievable believable and cross the threshold of reality. Good night, everybody, and thanks for joining us.
Good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Take care, Val. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Logan. Are we good?
You're good.
What's up, Denny?
I'm on. Good show, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really liked Mr. Logan. He helped me, maybe guess.